Welcome in, everybody, to another episode of ZB's Horsepower Talk. As always, I'm ZB Zach Brown, and joining with me, as always, is former 410 Sprint Car crew chief and mechanic, my dad, Jeff Brown. The Daytona 500 has finished up, and it was a wild one once again. William Byron goes back to back, winning Daytona 500s. First driver to do that since 2019 when Denny Hamlin made that happen. So, yeah, that was pretty boring race overall.
Yeah, I don't. I used to get real excited for the super speedway restrictor plate races, whatever you want to call it. Now it's 450 miles of them driving around three-quarters throttle, saving gas, running around not doing shit, and then it's a crash fest for the last 50 laps. They're going to start losing fans over that just because the racing is horrible. It's so stupid. All they do is crash. They forget they're not freaking bumper cars out there. I was really disappointed in that race. You get such high hopes for everything, and then it sucked, and that had nothing to do with the 4 or 5 hour rain delay we had going on there.
Well, it might have. It's still better than the tandem cars that they had. At least
True.
There's at least that. But I don't really. What we've noticed that the July or August race for Daytona is better than the Daytona 500 because that's 400 miles, so it's not much of a fuel conservation race. So when they're not doing that, that's a lot better.
Yeah.
Atlanta, I think it's always has been better too because it's harder to conserve fuel with that smaller version of speedway racing. And you have to have the cars that actually handle, so it's a little harder than just to ride around in that. But that's the most cars that have been involved in a crash in like 5 or 6 years in the Daytona 500. So that was uh, definitely a crash fest. A lot of impatience last 100 and then 50 laps. In the beginning, there was a lot of impatient people too. So I don't really know if there is a fix for it besides getting rid of the stages for speedway racing,
Yeah.
and or just not having a mandatory caution, like they were experimenting with at the in the
They need to do
road
something,
courses.
or have them where they don't know when these cautions are going to come out. It almost should be random. That way they can't try to. You don't know if it's going to be in 60 laps, and you're going to try to split the thing. So you almost got to run hard. Never know when this thing's going to come out and end the stage. I don't know if there's a solution to it, but I don't like what they got now, and I hope they realize that their on track product there just was not good for fans' perspective. And then Fox, what the hell is up with your goddamn ticker on the left side? That's awful. Like, if your guy's not in the top 20, you don't know where the hell they are. It would hardly ever switch to the 21 through 30 or whatever. It was bad. It takes up, way too much on the screen.
I don't know
It's
why they still
better.
go.
It's better when they go to the split screen commercials and have it across the top where it actually changes.
Yeah, I don't know why they just don't have like the normal ticker like they used to have, where it just rolls through the entire field on the very top
Yeah,
of the screen. I think that I don't. I feel like that was fine. Yeah, the ticker lately is has definitely sucked. I don't know, maybe Fox graphic team is just middle schoolers because that's what it looked like in the Super Bowl too. Um,
yeah.
I
We had
mean,
the interns or somebody doing
eh,
that. I don't.
so yeah, and it was a disappointing race. Now it did get pretty exciting at the end. I mean, they were balls to the wall, and it was. I thought Denny, and I texted you. I thought Denny had it in the bag,
Yeah,
and it was impressed. If it stayed green, he probably would have. But that late race restart overtime finish probably costed him the 500. He's just really impressive when he races that, and he obviously gets turned by Cole Custer. It wasn't Denny's fault at all. If Denny didn't get wrecked in that, he probably was going to win. He's just so smart with that speedway racing. He just knows exactly where the lines are forming and where to be at the very end of the race. If one thing that proved anything to me is that the Fords are quick on these type of
yeah.
racing. They're probably the best pushers that are out there. I was impressed with Austin Cindric, Ryan Blaney. I mean, everybody got caught up in a wreck at some point, but those were really impressive runs by the Fords. Chevy just kind of hung around, and they William Byron got lucky, and that's what happens. That's what you have to happen at Daytona
Yeah,
500. You got to be lucky a little bit, and he was. He avoided that by a hair. He was close to getting taken out, and of course Tyler Reddick gets second out of nowhere again, and then randomly Jimmy Johnson gets third. We're like, where
yeah.
the hell did he come from? It was
Yeah, good for Jimmy to get a good finish. He has, and he got caught up into obviously didn't do any damage, but he got spun through the grass earlier in the race.
everybody did. It was
Yeah, it's just, but William
wh-
Byron was probably the best Chevy most of the day. Like the Hendricks cars were not super fast.
no, but again, you don't have to be the fastest car at Daytona 500. You just got to
No,
be
no, for
there.
sure.
You just have to be around and have an opportunity. I mean, you saw Michael McDowell lead laps in this race, and you saw a bunch of drivers you would not expect up there. And of course, you saw Ricky Stenhouse hanging up in the top 10 for a while. But it was chaos once again, and they're gonna have to clean it up because I know these crews are tired of having destroyed race cars every single time they go speedway racing, especially the biggest tracks, Daytona and Talladega.
Yeah.
Now we're shifting our focus over to Atlanta. Is there any more on your soapbox you want to go on with Daytona? You got it all out now.
No, I think I got it all out.
Well, the let's just go over the truck race that happened at Daytona before we shift over to Atlanta.
I didn't
Uh,
see.
the Now Parker Kligerman had that race won as Dad cuts out of the screen, but I'm going to explain it. Parker
Yeah,
Kligerman,
sorry, the cat's under here like chewing on wires.
Parker Kligerman, he won the race, but post race inspection failed. So he did not end up winning that race, and that's the second time this has happened to Parker. It happened, I believe, in the Xfinity race last year at some point, and now the truck race. I mean, he was so fired up, and it was such a shame to see
Yeah,
it fail post
that's
race.
tough.
And yeah, and then the Xfinity race, I didn't really see much of that. Uh, that that was more. I think the most crash fest was the Cup race. Honestly,
Probably.
I think that, and we've been saying this. The Xfinity races have been putting on better races than the Cup Series in this style of racing, for whatever reason.
They're still the older style of a car, basically.
Yeah, well, and then you have Arca, which is like the Gen 4 or 5
Yeah, they
car
still
that
run
they
the
had,
SSs or whatever they are, and
but they just crashed in general.
yeah.
But like Caleb Costner got caught up in a wreck. Shame that he did. He was running really well and just kind of got caught up. I mean, it happens again. You have to have a little bit of luck going through Daytona
But
and
quick shout
everything.
out to Justin Allgaier and Dale Jr.'s Cup
Top
car.
10.
Got a ninth place finish out of that. Car
Yeah, take,
stayed clean the whole night. That's better than most of the field. So
yeah,
good job to them.
yeah. And then AC Leo, he didn't get a finish.
Nah,
He had
that
he
poor
probably
guy.
the worst weekend you could
He
have
got
at
fifth in
Daytona.
the ARCA race, though. I did see that,
He did
and
what?
crashed going across the line.
Yeah, yeah. He's crashed.
Leo
He's at
crashed a lot of race cars this weekend, and I don't know if they were really any of his fault.
yeah. Well, Jesse Love gets the win in an Xfinity Series, so that's a big
Yeah.
time win for him. His second career win, and
RCR's Xfinity program on those speedway tracks is really good.
Re- um, and so's Austin Hill. He was leading a lot. He was the fastest car the entire race. I don't know if he got caught up in a wreck or what happened exactly to him, but he was the fastest. But yeah, Jesse Love. That's what he won at Talladega last year, and now he gets
Yeah,
a win at Daytona. So
he's a good
uh,
driver.
yeah, I think trucks and Xfinity overall were better races than the Cup. The highlights that I saw. We'll see what happens here at Atlanta as we're getting into Atlanta right now. Another speedway type racing that they went to 3, 4 years ago. Now the track's getting worn from after the new pavement, which is going to make a lot better racing. It's still drafting, but it's a little bit different strategies that you have to have than Daytona. A lot less room to make up ground on a straightaway because it's smaller.
Yeah,
It's a mile smaller than the other two tracks. There's a dog leg you have to worry about while you're drafting. You can't go underneath their red line that they have painted there. It's a lot of strategy, and it's turned out to be you have to kind of wheel this thing and not just ride around at Atlanta.
yeah. I think it actually plays better in that smaller track. And like you said, we got, I don't know, 3 or 4 years since the repave. So the track's going to definitely lose grip. It's not going to be as fast as it was. So I think that's actually going to make better racing. The car handling is going to make a bigger difference than it does at Daytona. So I expect this to be a lot better race. Hopefully they got all their, hey, I think this car is a freaking bumper car out this week, and maybe at least to the end, give and take a little more than they do instead of just take.
This one's 400 miles, not
Well,
500.
that makes a difference as well.
No,
So
that's 500 miler in the later on the season, the second
okay,
race that they have. But this one's 400 miles, and I like the 400 miles
I
in this.
like
It
the
goes
shorter
by
races better.
quick. It goes by quick, and if everybody remembers, this is the where the track. This is the track where the closest three wide finish in NASCAR history has happened between Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, and of course the winner, Daniel Suarez. That was a heck of a race last year. And Atlanta just doesn't seem to matter what style of racing, they always have crazy finishes. I expect nothing less of that this year. Um, if it plays it right, I think they had rain last year that delayed it some, and it went finished under the light. I don't. It starts at
I
three,
think
so it
so.
kind of depends how it hits. I wouldn't mind seeing it finish under the lights. I like tracks that start in the evening and finish under the lights. Makes it a lot more exciting. Uh, I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be. I'd like to actually see this, and I don't think anybody's ever said, "Hey, I want to go see Atlanta." Now I think this is one of the premier tracks that you want to go see because of how exciting it's been, and of course they're going to promote that three wide finish till the end of time. Now that they have this
Oh,
track,
sure.
and I think I don't really know what to expect. And when I explain my fantasy, you'll probably know what I'm kind of predicting. So I think it. Well, speaking of fantasy, before we get into our picks in fantasy, I did win last week somehow. It was no every single
It
lap
was
with
so bad. I
somebody
think
else.
I set a new record. I was barely over zero. Mine
You
was
had
so
60.
I had 79.
Yeah.
Last year I did bet. I thought I did horrible at 90 some. I would have won this year.
Well, it was one lap. I was leading. The next lap, you were leading. Next lap, mom was leading. There was
Oh, I
hit.
did good till about 10 to go. Then I lost 100 points.
Well, I think I had Denny in the lineup. He was winning, rolling in the back. Austin Cindric was there, rolling. Oh, I didn't have Austin Cindric last week. Blaney, I had at least in one of my head-to-heads. Just everything just catastrophically failed at the
Yeah.
end.
Yeah, I had Denny,
But
Ben House.
but it's time for this week's NASCAR Fantasy heading into Atlanta. Since you went last time, it's time for me to go first.
All right.
So, in my starting lineup, I have Ryan Blaney, Austin Cindric, Brad Keselowski, Kyle Busch, and I'm keeping Ricky Stenhouse Jr. in this one because when am I actually going to ever use him? And Chris Buescher in the garage. I kept Chris Buescher in the garage again. So my theme here is I think Fords are going to do well this weekend, as well as I saw them perform last week. I think you'll see them avoid. I don't think the crash bug is going to hit every single one of them once again. I think you'll see them have good finishes. So that's my starting lineup. Now in the featured matchups, they have William Byron versus Joey Logano. I'm sticking to my theme. I'm picking Joey Logano. You don't usually see a back-to-back winner from Daytona 500 to the first race of the year, so I'm sticking with Joey Logano, who was fast last week, very fast. Daniel Suarez versus Kyle Busch. I'm picking Kyle Busch to have a little bit of redemption. He's going to be hungry to have a good finish here after he came up just short last year of getting a win. Ryan Blaney versus Christopher Bell. I have Ryan Blaney over Chris. That was a tough one to pick, but I'm sticking with my theme of the Fords. And Chase Briscoe versus Austin Cindric. Once again, sticking to my theme of the Fords having a good race and the Penske's in general having a good race. Austin Cindric over Chase Briscoe. The hot pick here, surprise, surprise, is Ryan Blaney. Another hot pick is Daniel Suarez. I don't know if it's a hot pick. I think it's a decent pick, but I don't want to say hot. It's again the kind of luck of the draw when you get to Atlanta. But avoid Kyle Larson, yes. Once again, avoid him 100%. Don't put him in there. He'll find a way to wreck. It says avoid Denny Hamlin. He's better at the bigger speedway racing than this style. He gets caught up in wrecks in this, but who doesn't? Says the sleepers Corey LaJoy. Yeah, I've actually thought about putting him in my lineup, but I also wasn't sure if and how he was going to make the race. I didn't know if he was racing in this one. Didn't really know how that all was playing out. Clearly, he's in the entry list, so look for him to have a solid finish as well. Go ahead with your starting lineup in NASCAR Fantasy for
All right.
Atlanta.
My theories was mostly these guys can't suck 2 weeks in a row.
I can.
Well, so going against what they say, I do have Denny Hamlin, Kyle Busch, hometown boy Chase Elliott. How do you not put him in for Atlanta?
I didn't.
Joey Logano, which fastest car last week. So Joey Logano, Christopher Bell, who was quite surprising how fast he was last week. I got him in, and in my garage, last year's winner, Daniel Suarez. So in our matchups, I have Logano over William Byron. I have Suarez over Kyle Busch, Christopher Bell over Ryan Blaney, and the surprise I thought did well last week till everything all the shit happened. Chase Briscoe I have over Austin Cindric.
All right. Well, that's the only
So
way
we
you
are
can make
different
up.
this week, that's for
Yeah,
sure. So
this is quite different. Well, I'm saving a lot of drivers for sprinkling throughout the year because I got a little close on using some of them up for the entire year. Like I said, I can use Ricky Stenhouse on all of these because that's the only time I'm ever going to use Ricky. He
yeah,
doesn't run real good on road courses, so I'm not going to use him for there. It's literally the only type of style races. So there'll be 4 races that I'll have Ricky Stenhouse in, depending on how he does in Atlanta. But yeah, I'm gonna. That's it. And now the other drivers I have not used yet. So we'll see what happens. Chris Buescher's come up close in these races too, so expect RFK to look pretty well. That was a scary wreck by Ryan Preece in the first race for RFK that he had. He's getting sick and tired of Daytona and Talladega, I think.
well, these cars are they're like a freaking matchbox underneath. They're completely flat, and just the way that car rolled up over that fender and got the front end up, there was no air that was going to stop that. It was like lifting a sheet of plywood in the wind. That thing was just going to take right off on him. So that was tough. And I don't know if you saw his post on X, but he updated his picture profile. It was him
I saw that.
in a spacesuit. So you know, having a sense of humor. What else are you going to do? So that's pretty cool about that.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Outlaws are back in action this week.
You know what? I didn't think they were back till they come back to Florida, but
All I know is that NHRA and IndyCar are a couple weeks away. Um, but yeah, March 2nd is the IndyCar opener at St. Petersburg.
yeah, no, they've been advertising that. Oh, we still did not have any of the Daytona 500 beer down here anywhere.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'd like for them to make like I said last time, an Indy 500 beer. That'd be pretty cool.
That would be very
Uh,
cool.
that they can make.
Let's see here. We got.
But like I said, we're not really going to preview World of Outlaws. We'll touch on them
Oh,
after the
they're at.
races.
No, they don't race till
March.
yeah, March 2nd and 3rd at
That's
Volusia.
what that's what I figured. I think that's when high limit races and all that stuff
Yeah,
too. But again, we'll preview the stuff that's not as frequent. Like we'll dive into IndyCar because that's every few weeks or whatever, and NHRA is the same thing. So we can actually give some decent previewing of that. It just gets a little difficult to keep up with all the sprint car racing because there's almost 100
yeah,
races between the two with each series that they have. So it gets a little crazy there.
yeah.
Uh,
It takes a lot of time to try to.
Break
I
those
caught
down.
myself pretty much. We talk about what's the keys, and pretty much it always comes down to lap traffic and this and that. It sort of sound like a
It
broken
does,
record.
but when we can always
But it's
review
true.
because we could talk about how good of a race it was or
Yeah,
not, and they do have a lot of. They're already
if
starting off
anything's like it's
strong.
been, the races have been pretty good so far. So
Ever since they changed that tire rule
yeah,
and to start off next last year, I think that was the biggest difference. I don't know why, but that's what did it. But I think that does it for this week. Make sure you guys follow the NASCAR Fantasy. You can tail us. You can avoid us. I'd probably avoid us.
yep.
Uh,
Whatever I pick, do the opposite.
But now it's time to give our picks to win at Atlanta in the NASCAR Cup Series. Now I'm going to give you mine first.
Okay.
I like to switch it every week.
No, you're good.
I'm sticking to my theme of Ford this week. I'm thinking this is a little bit of a redemption race. He's going to be hungry. He came up just short last year in this race. That's right. I'm picking 2023 Cup Series champion Ryan Blaney to win at Atlanta.
Okay. Well, I have his teammate. He was the fastest car last week. He's bound to not suck twice. So I got Joey Logano. Mom's pick, Chase Elliott.
She's going back to back weeks with Chase.
Yeah, I told her she wasn't allowed to do that, and she said, tough shit.
Yeah, well, she's probably going to use somehow have like extra people in her lineup and win again.
Oh yeah, she'll pick like SVG.
Well, now that she's different than one of us, that driver's definitely winning now. So Chase, you're in good luck.
Yeah.
I think that does it for this week then. Make sure you guys share it. Follow anywhere you get your podcasts, all social media platforms. And yeah, I think that will do it. Make sure you check out the YouTube channel. Some funny memes that I released on Mondays.
They were some pretty good ones.
Yeah, I try to do well. So we'll have probably some good Atlanta ones. Until then, we'll see what happens this week in Atlanta. We'll talk to you guys about it next week.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everybody.